My name is Stewart Lauer. I have been a missionary in Japan now for 30 years. We first arrived in 1985. I was sent by the Orthodox Presbyterian Church, and during that time we have been working with the Reformed Church in Japan, primarily to establish new churches, but I've also worked as a seminary professor during that time as well. When I first arrived, I went to language school for 2 years. I got a very good foundation at a school that was set up for missionaries. And I would recommend highly that Diogo and any other missionaries coming to Japan be given a very thorough base in the Japanese language when they first arrived, ideally, or at some point before they begin labors among the Japanese people. Being able to preach, not only preach and teach in Japanese, but also being able to really relate to people in their own language is quite important. Diogo asked me about the Japanese attitude toward academic qualifications, degrees and those kinds of things. And in any culture, being reasonably well educated tends to be helpful, but Japan does tend to play to place a very high evaluation, a very high value on higher education. So having an advanced degree when you teach in the Japanese circumstances, whether it's seminary or in the church, it is certainly advantageous. When I first came, I came after having received a Master of Divinity at Westminster Seminary, and that was very, very helpful to my work, first in the southern part of the city of Sendai, and then later in the northwestern suburbs of Sendai, where our mission had established a church, and the missionary that established the church was retiring, and so I was taking over for him in that work. And I found my degree did prepare me quite well for that work. I was very happy to have it. Not the degree so much as what I actually learned. Toward the end of my second term, in 1993, I was asked to teach at the Kobe Reformed Theological Seminary, the seminary where the Reformed Church in Japan trains most of its ministers. And so I was also asked to get an advanced degree. They wanted a PhD if at all possible. And so I went back in 1994 for 3.5 years and pursued a PhD at Westminster Seminary, completing all the coursework and the exams for the PhD, although ultimately I wound up submitting my dissertation to the University of Wales at Lampeter, and that's where ultimately I received my PhD degree. I taught for 9 years at Reformed Seminary, and that advanced training was, I would say, was crucial to my work. I would not have been nearly as well prepared for the work that I did at the seminary had I not had that advanced degree there. Another reason that advanced theological training at Westminster Seminary was highly valuable was the theological environment that we have here in Japan. It's very much like the environment that you find in Western Europe or in the United States, with theological liberalism pervasive. And it was threatening the Reformed Church in Japan, the integrity of it, all throughout our time here. So I constantly was drawing on the training that I received at Westminster Seminary during the time that I've been here since doing that training at Westminster Seminary. Finally, Diogo also asked me whether I think that it would be important or useful to him to have similar advanced theological training in terms of working as for a career here in Japan. And I would say that the answer is definitely yes. That whatever church you're working with here, whether it's forming your own new denomination or working with the Presbyterian Church in Japan, or whatever ultimately the Brazilian Presbyterian Church determines to do in terms of a mission here, it will be useful for you to do that. It would qualify you to be able to teach in a seminary as well, which can be very helpful. You never know what's going to happen down the road. But in any event, I think it would be quite useful if you're able to get a THM or even a PhD, that would be worthwhile doing. Although I would say the most important thing is to get a good grasp on the Japanese language. The other stuff is quite helpful and useful, but it's critical to long-term work in Japan that you master the Japanese language. And so it wasn't what you asked, but I'm going to give you that piece of advice as well. And also for your wife to gain a good appreciation, good ability in the Japanese language is also very important. My wife did, and I've never regretted it. I think she has been an enormous help because of her ability in the Japanese language, and I would encourage Bianca as well as Diogo to work hard in the Japanese language. I hope that the Presbyterian Church in Brazil will send over not just one or two, but a number of missionaries over the next few years to work not only with the Brazilians here, but also with the Japanese as well. And I look forward to working together and in the future. Thank you.